You know, when I rediscovered you, your career was history. And you were so hungry to get back in the game, you were drooling in my shoes. But there was decency in you. And now you're just another ego-laden bitch with an attitude. Whatever was special about you, you murdered it.
Who the hell do you think you are?
All right.
Welcome to Highlander Rewatched, the podcast where each and every week we watch another episode of Highlander the series and talk about it in detail. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Keith.
We're going to kick off this one with another question. That is, what is your favorite type of sword? Doesn't have to be in the episodes we've seen, but favorite sword. Go.
Okay. This is Keith. I think my favorite type of sword would be like a French rapier. Like a fencing sword. I really like that style of fencing. I think it's really, I don't know. So I kind of like the rules of it, that there's like a system, like, I don't know, the way you have to fence, it's orderly, which is something I kind of like about it. There's like, I guess I should say it's elegant. There's an elegance to it, which I really like, and its simplicity. So
This is Eamon. I like the Japanese katana sword.
Did you know katana means Japanese sword?
According to Samurai Cop.
Samurai Cop.
A movie I'm sure everyone's seen.
Watch that movie.
Yep.
It's very good. I like the katana. It's probably redundant to say Japanese sword.
It is.
I'm not an expert on it, but I think they look cool. They're efficient, also elegant.
I think I would go for kind of akin to like a cavalry kind of saber. I think that's something you get a lot of utility out of in like the Highlander universe, because like you need something sturdy enough to cut off a head, because you do see people in the Highlander universe like cutting off people's heads with rapiers.
And I don't think that's happening.
I don't think that's medically feasible.
Yeah,
like, I just don't think that's a thing that could happen. So it's got to be something like with some heft. So I'd say like a saber or like a cutlass, kind of like something small that you could like carry around in your trench coat pretty easily and still get the job done. So
I think everyone should carry a lightsaber.
Well, a lightsaber would be my weapon of choice in the Highlander universe.
Get your tickets for The Force Awakens, everyone.
I wish we were getting paid to say that.
Who would win, Ramirez or Yoda? Who's a better teacher?
Where are we? All right. So,
who's this character? Is this a guest? Is this our first guest?
I like Hunt. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, and it's Kyle. Kyle, you didn't introduce yourself.
I'm Kyle, and I'm going with saber.
All right. Keith's got a rapier. Eamon's got a katana. Kyle has got
a
saber. All right. So, episode number 16. This is The Beast Below. It first aired March 6th, 1993. It was directed by Daniel Vignette? I'm bad at French names, too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's directed by Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames. He's done a bunch of French stuff, none of which I know. Sorry. And the writer was Marie Chantal Droney. This is her third episode of 4 episodes. She also did Mountain Men before, which is one of our favorites, and Band of Brothers, which is, I think, we're all unanimous that's the best episode so far, right?
Yeah. And this is a freaking weird one.
Yeah.
So, okay, Droney.
Yep. So the guest stars in this are Dee Dee Bridgewater. She doesn't have a lot of acting credits, but she's mostly known because she's a jazz singer. I guess, one of her few acting credits. She's in John Styles' Brother from Another Planet. I don't know, that's a really classic, movie from 1984, I think. Watch it. But yeah, she's a jazz singer. Did a lot of Broadway stuff.
She was in The Wiz. Award winner for The Wiz.
Yeah,
Glinda.
Yeah, and she was in the original cast of that. And then we also have Francois Guattari, and he's the detective.
Oh,
and that's about it. So, the IMDb episode description is: Duncan tries to stop an immortal who is a giant and simple from killing for an overwashed singer.
Overwashed?
Overwashed, it says.
I
think it means washed up. I think maybe somebody translated this.
That's when your sweater shrinks in the wash, overwashed,
Duncan tries to stop an immortal who is a giant and
simple
from killing.
It's got to be washed up. For a second, I thought it was like going to be a play on like people talking about like the unwashed, like sometimes like snooty, snooty opera people will refer to non-opera fans like unwashed. It's overwashed. I don't know. It's either way too clever or the dumbest thing ever.
So this episode starts off at the Paris Opera House, which is a great setting. Again, these Paris locations are pretty kick-ass. You couldn't ask for a better place to film. This place is beautiful. So Richie goes and he's like, whoa, check this place out. Like, he's all, like, into it. They're there to see a dress rehearsal of Richie's now new girlfriend, who's really just, like, Parisian Annie. Angie? What's her name is? Angie. Although she's not Parisian. She's American, I suppose. But she's kind of like a Angie lookalike.
She's a redhead or strawberry blonde. I don't know.
And Richie is creeping on her hard.
Yeah.
He's just watching this performance and licking his lips.
Literally licking his lips. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's not great. Like, we're just like back to him being like a cartoon wolf again. Like,
let's talk about something else that's disgusting. The performance they're witnessing.
Yeah, it is.
This thing is a train wreck. We could record a whole episode on this fucking song.
We probably
Jesus Christ.
All right, so let's take a listen to just like a little bit of this this musical number they're doing. We won't play the whole thing. This is D.D. Bridgewater with The Long Goodbye on 94.1 CQverse New Sounds.
So yeah, we got ballet dancers here.
Going in every which way.
Yeah,
they might as well just be warming up. Like, there's no choreography. They're just jumping around.
We got a yacht rock keyboardist here. And Jenny's just... I guess she's the backup vocal.
Yeah, she's like backup vocals. She's got mom jeans on and a very see-through shirt.
You can see like a pointy bra.
Very pointy bra. And she can't really dance either.
Yeah.
Like, she's just kind of bouncing.
There's Richie licking his lips.
I mean, let's stop it here. Like, I guess thematically, maybe it's interesting. The song is about time?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I wrote the lyrics down. And so here are some of the lyrics. Carolyn, the lead singer, says, ever since the beginning of time, we speak of love as if nothing changes. I wonder why. Love is a long goodbye. The backup lyrics are the crazy lyrics. So Jenny is just going 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. There is 24 hours in every day. Ooh, ah. And then 7 days a week, 52 weeks in a year, 100 years a century. This goes on. And at the end of the song, she even says 10 centuries in a millennium. It's just like...
So there are complete lyrics to this travesty.
It's ridiculous. Like, she's just listing times. Like, oh, it's awful.
Well, she says the days of the week, too, right?
I didn't catch days of the, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I swear they say that.
I think that's I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas. We might be getting this confused.
Oh, boy.
They're equally stupid songs.
Yeah.
But
Dee Bridgewater, the lead singer here, ends up stopping the rehearsal because the spotlight goes on Jenny.
Right.
And she's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. And then they go into, like, they have a whole discussion about, like, union issues.
Yep.
Like, it gets real specific. But she's the star of the show. That's what we need to know from this, is that she's a diva, and Jenny is just her, like, underling backup singer.
And so she is arguing with the manager, like, in the rafters.
Yeah,
like,
they go up on, like, the catwalk.
Reason.
And they have a giant exposition argument.
Yeah.
About, like, her career and how it tanked, but he rediscovered her, and now she's just being a jerk.
So the whole shebang. And somebody is watching this argument, a mysterious figure.
Mm-hmm. And then the manager says, you're just an ego-laden bitch with an attitude.
Like Roadkill with attitude.
Yeah. Lots of things with attitude that shouldn't have attitude in this show. So she slaps him in the face, and he storms off.
Yep.
And she storms off.
Yeah.
But he's still up there. And all of a sudden, he...
What?
Yeah. Then he gets the long goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, he gets splatted, but right before he takes the dive, Duncan gets his ever-loving immortal Spidey sense.
Yeah, so he knows somebody's there, and presumably that's the person that splatted Mr. Manager.
I'm Mr. Manager. And for some reason, Mr. Manager is like covered in flower petals
Yeah.
in some way for unknown reasons.
Well, and so the police arrive on the scene, and this is a new cop.
This
He
guy
looks an awful lot like Detective Cubone, only
with hair.
It's
Yeah.
odd.
It's weird.
His Euro trash levels amped up a little bit, though. Like, he does not look like he's on the job as a cop. Like, he's wearing like a black t-shirt and like it's like.
Oh, we should talk about Duncan's look in this scene as well, because Duncan's wearing a turtleneck, of course, a white turtleneck. His jacket doesn't have a lapel. Like, it's a weird early 90s trying to be like sleek jacket that's like from the future. It's weird. I find it off-putting. There's a lot of weird costume choices in this episode in particular.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and for some reason, Duncan just has unfettered access to this body. Like, the cops are there, and they're just like, oh, yeah, you can touch whatever's
he
going on.
picks up, like, we don't know what these things are. It's like, we eventually find out they're pedals, but I don't think they read on screen. Like, I'm like,
no.
Does he have, like, paper,
I literally
stopped
the thing, and I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
And he's like, look at these. It's like, stop touching the evidence.
Yeah, like, he might as well just said, like, hey, can I have these clues? And they're like, yeah, whatever. Fucking
just touch that body. That's not evidence or anything.
What do we need with it?
Yeah.
So Duncan then, on this topic of unfettered access, just busts up into the star of the show's dressing room.
Yep, and he's questioning her, basically, about this crime. And she's like, oh, are you with the police? Nope.
So Duncan, while he's in her dressing room, sees wildflowers on her desk. And he's like, oh, where did these come from? And she's like, I don't know, they were just there. And so now we're putting the pieces together that they were flower petals, I guess, on the body. She's got flower petals in her office. So.
And these flowers only grow in the forest.
Right. It's a clue!
Bum, bum, bum. And we get ourselves a flashback.
Right, because immediately Duncan puts this together. This is based on flowers, like, that are found in, like, a singer's dressing room. They get flowers all, like, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say about this flashback, it's beautifully shot, and it's a really good location.
I think this is a good flashback as well. Also for being a very simple flashback. Like, there's no set for this flashback. It's just costumes. Mm-hmm. They flashback to 1634, the Watcher Chronicles say. They're just in a forest, and it's a very, like, Frankenstein-esque sort of scene, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, people are chasing...
Mob with pitchforks and the whole 9 yards.
Right, and the music is really, I think, pretty good.
Yeah, I have a note.
It's like, it's just like an oboe playing the melody, and then there's, like, a choir chanting, and it's, like, it's intense and very haunting, and the music adds a lot to this episode.
Yeah, notwithstanding the intro.
Yeah.
Right.
But
it's a stark contrast to the music we were just forced to hear.
Yeah, but then and Duncan, and the costumes look great. Like, Duncan is in his kind of full-on barbarian kind of gear still, because it's that long ago.
And he's riding a white horse,
which
is cool. Like, it like bucks up when he arrives. It's like it could all be in slow motion. It's all heroic stuff. It's good.
This is good. This is a good sequence.
And we were treated, though, to some amazing acting from the kind of dirt farmers who are out to get this immortal.
Yeah, it's not just bad acting, but it's like weird writing as well. And again, this is from, like, what's her name, Marie Droney?
What are you hunting? A beast that bears no name, sir. A demon that dwells hereabouts.
Demon? Has he horns?
None, sir. But when he is cut down, he doesn't die. He springs up somewhere else, like the mushrooms that grow here at our feet.
What?
And Duncan's like, mushrooms.
Like, he speaks in the most, like, florid language. He's like, oh, like, when the beast is cut down, he springs up like the mushrooms at our feet. Like, it's like, this guy's supposed to be like a peasant farmer, and he speaks in these, like, eloquent sentences that are really florid. It's very bad.
Also, it's so weird, because it's like, oh, how do you know he's a demon? Well, we know because we killed him.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we just found a man and murdered him, and then he didn't die, so oof, good thing we did that.
Well, something weird about this, too, is that Duncan seems to be, like, laughing at the fact that they think it might be a demon. But back then, people believed in that kind of stuff.
And he uses that to his
by the way,
advantage.
Duncan, you are a goddamn mythical creature.
Yeah.
And whose whole family, like, exiled him for being a demon.
Yeah.
So is it really that, like, his incredulity is weird vicissitudes?
Yeah, well, I guess he should feel pretty bad about relate to this guy because he was kicked out as a demon and knows what that feels like, and he hasn't met this person yet, but he just knows someone is being hunted as a demon, who may or may not know what's going on or whatever. Anyway, so we end up finding out this thing they're hunting. This thing, I already said thing instead of person. It's a person. This person they're hunting is like a Quasimodo sort of character.
Yeah, he's a gentle
hunchback
giant.
Yes.
And he's picking some flowers.
Yeah, he's doing nothing. He's just picking flowers. So Duncan saves him. But in the scuffle, all these villagers are attacking. Well, we found out his name is Ursa, we find out later. Duncan ends up having to stab Ursa to stop Ursa from hurting these villagers. And so Duncan plays on their superstition, and he's like, everyone get out of here. He's like, I'm going to bury the body. I know how to bury a demon so it won't rise again. But if you stay here, you will grow roots and be stuck in the forest forever. I thought it was funny. Yeah. I liked it. Duncan being very clever.
Oh, Duncan.
Ursa wakes up and Duncan's like, all right, we got to get out of here.
We got a boogie.
Yeah, also, the stabbing's pretty brutal. Duncan, stabs him, in the kidney.
Yeah.
It's, pretty brutal looking.
Yeah.
With, his big old Scottish sword.
Yeah. And, the way Ursa's, throwing around the peasants, it looks pretty cool.
Ursa's costuming is pretty good, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got, it's a very cobbled together piece of, it's bits and pieces of leather and, fur. And
back in the present day, and the diva is playing the piano and singing some copyright-avoiding ooze. So she's just, generically singing something when Ursa just lobs some flowers onto the stage.
So he comes out then, right? And confronts...
Oh, yeah, and then they talk.
And they talk, and he explains that he killed the manager because he hurt her.
But, yeah.
He didn't
She hit him.
Yeah, he just kind of verbally said she was, a bitch.
Yeah.
That was it.
She was.
Yeah.
She's being very unpleasant.
He should have lobbed her off the thing.
Yeah.
But he loves her voice.
That's true.
He loves it.
Dee Bridgewater thinks he is, her guardian angel.
It's you're my guardian murderer. I was in no jeopardy, and then you killed someone for me. I don't understand it.
I don't either.
Yeah, you should be very afraid of this man.
Yeah. We cut to the church, and Duncan is asking Darius if he remembers this character.
Right.
And Darius does. His name's Ursa, and he was a gardener at the Abbey of St. Gobain before the Revolution. But they tore the abbey down, and so presumably he doesn't have a home anymore. So then they sit down to drink tea. It's this crazy scene where Duncan's like, oh, this isn't any of your weird moss tea, is it? And he's like, no. And he sips it. He's like, it's from a mold form, he says. It's like, what? And Duncan spits it out everywhere.
For big laughs.
Big laughs.
Yeah.
All I could think of the whole time was in The Road Not Taken, the fat Dave Foley character going, tea! I hate tea!
I hate
what
tea!
Is this? And that's basically what Duncan does here.
Yeah. But again, I do like to see Duncan. It's a Duncan 6 episodes ago would not have been the butt of a joke.
Yeah.
At all. So this is kind of nice.
Maybe Darius brings it out of him, or it's just better writing.
Probably better writing. So then we get another flashback, and this is kind of picking up the last flashback we saw. So Duncan and Ursa leave whatever village I guess they had been camped out at, and Duncan explains it's you have to leave this area. And so Duncan takes him to an abbey.
Right.
To kind of hide out because he'll be safe on holy ground. Duncan explains the rules of the game. And again, Ursa is mentally disabled. So isn't quite clear what is...
It's very unclear what his deal is.
What's getting through to him or not. But Ursa, is drawn to the music as soon as he gets there.
The monk chanting. We should say, I don't think we mentioned this, but it comes up later. So after Ursa throws the manager off the rafter, the way he escapes is he goes through these catacomb tunnels that are connected to the opera house.
Right.
Which Duncan is about to discover through some kind of obscene, just absurd Adam West Batman logic.
Yeah, so we're back in the present, and Darius and Duncan are trying to figure out, what happened to Ursa. And yeah, it is complete Batman logic. They're Darius makes some comment. He's the Abbey's gone. He's I'm sure it's just a park now with its own subway station. And Duncan's a subway? Tunnels. Ursa loves, is from a cave. He loves tunnels, and then he's well, and then they're that makes sense, and they're all, in agreement, and they're but how does that explain how we got to the opera house? And it's music. He loves music and beauty. That's how he got, and it's they piece this together, out of it's so crazy.
It's cut from whole cloth.
You know that Ursa, he always appreciated music and beauty.
Duncan, who met him for what would be less than a couple days, it would seem.
Yeah. And it seems like Duncan introduced him to music.
Yeah.
He was like,
Yes.
what is this new thing?
Right. So Jenny comes to visit Carolyn, who's Dee Dee Bridgewater, in the Opera House. And so first off, Carolyn is wearing Beetlejuice level clothes. Like, she has like black and white clothing, like Edward Scissorhands hair. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah, she looks like a referee with a bird on her head and rock candy for earrings. It is weird.
This haircut's a mess.
So this is, I think, a weird scene. So Jenny comes in and she mentions that, like, she's been working on some new songs, like, with the band. And, like, again, I'm, like, a little confused about, like, what the nature of this group is. Like, I just kind of assumed everybody there was a backing band for Dee Dee Bridgewater. Like, this is her comeback show. She's, like, a star. And these are just kind of, hired musicians to play whatever tunes they need them to play. But they kind of make it sound like this is, like, a band that, like, has been together for a little while.
Yeah.
It's very strange. Like, there's band meetings. Like, I'm not really sure if Carolyn is really the head of it. Like, it seems more of, like, a team effort thing. So anyway, Jenny's like, I've been working on some new songs. Maybe we could try him. And Dee Dee Bridgewater's like, that's cool. Like, I'll try him out. And maybe if they work well, we can incorporate him to the show. And then Jenny's like, I thought I could do him. And so Dee Dee Bridgewater is, like, kind of perturbed at this. Like, she hides it. It's weird. Like, as far as I'm concerned, Jenny is completely out of line. For her to suggest that, like, they perform these songs, I think is fine. But as far as I'm concerned, at least, again, I'm not sure what this show is, but this seems like it's the Dee Dee Bridgewater show. And for her to just be like, I know I'm just your backup singer, and this is, like, your name's on the marquee, but can I just sing songs instead? Like, it's like, no, you can't. Like,
obviously.
You're the backup singer.
Why would you think this was okay?
I don't know. I think it's an odd, like, setup because
it is.
I think they're using this interaction to set up Dee Dee Bridgewater as being a not nice person, which we've already established from the argument with the manager that she's not great.
Right.
But I think this is to, like, reinforce it. It's like, look how mean she is. She won't even let her sing her song. It's like, she shouldn't let her sing that song.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not the point.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a weird little tidbit.
I think Jenny is wrong, and that's why I think Dee Dee's plan to murder her is justified.
Which is so crazy, because she could just say no.
Yeah.
She could just be like, can I do this? No.
She could even be like, no, and you're fired.
Yeah,
and then the threat's gone. Like,
it's just like, hey, but maybe I should manipulate a killer I barely know into killing her, too. So meanwhile, Duncan is going to take the case. He's going down into the sewers to try to find his old pal, Ursa.
And he and Richie are having a pretty funny exchange over the manhole cover.
Yeah, this conversation rings to me just like Richie's, like, nature conversation. Like, there's, like, birds and bugs and stuff.
I get lost in a nursery once.
Yeah.
So here's Richie's thoughts on sewers.
You're gonna go down there and look for this big giant named Ursa who's, like, crawling around the opera, you think?
That's right. And I'm going on my own.
Okay, so I take it you were around when they built the Paris sewers, right? You probably know them like the back of your hand.
No, I was actually not too much into sewers, you know.
Well then, how do you know where you're going?
Well, as the old saying goes, I'm going north by northwest. Well, actually, I'm going that way.
What if your compass doesn't work down there?
I'll get lost. And don't come after me!
Right, sure. Oh, great, big, dumb, giant, ugly Neanderthal, immortal piece of... Oh, man.
A big, dumb, ugly Neanderthal, mortal piece of... man.
But, like, what happens after this is that Duncan has been going down there, and Richie's lost, apparently, and stumbles into Duncan. But Richie went down there, like, seconds. Seconds afterwards. Like, Duncan probably isn't done climbing the ladder yet, and Richie is right there above him. Like, how does
gets
he not
lost
know?
immediately.
Yeah, like, what does he just, like, put on a blindfold and not follow the only other source of sound and light?
And I'm going to keep harping on this just because I think it's a big... Well, for me, it's a big deal. Like, Duncan being such a stoic hero in those early episodes, it's, like, not too much fun. Duncan and Richie having a good time, but also, like, just the... this version of Duncan is, like, more adventurous. Like, him going down the sewer, he's like, I'm just going to do it. Like, if it break, like, I'll get lost. Like, I don't know. Like, he's a little bit more like, I'm going to go get it done. Like, I don't know. It has a sense of adventure to it. I think the old Duncan didn't. Yeah. The new one is kind of stepping out of that role a little bit. So,
but good stuff. Magnetic North doesn't work when you're 10 feet underground.
I think you have bigger problems to worry about.
So at this point, Ursa shows up at the opera, which is kind of too bad. Like, I guess it's like a little switcheroo. Like, Duncan goes down the sewer, and Ursa actually is, at this point, coming up from the sewer, so they're missing each other.
So I was wondering about this. Like, obviously Duncan has no good plan about how to maneuver around the sewer. So why doesn't he just stake out the opera?
Yeah.
Because that's where he knows he's going to come to.
Yeah, like, you've kind of got bait in the form of the music.
That's true.
So it seems like you should use that, as opposed to just, like, going, whoa, where am I going? I hope my compass works.
Unless he's trying to find out. I mean, he's right outside the opera house. Maybe he's trying to figure out how Ursa gets into the opera.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like an entry point.
That makes sense. I buy that.
Because then, I mean, if he doesn't know how that happens, like, if he stakes out the opera, he won't know where Ursa's going to pop up from. Maybe that's the plan. Ursa then shows Carolyn, the diva, like the access to the underground catacombs and everything. So she's now in on this Ursa world.
And she's wearing some kind of weird yellow, like, April O'Neil outfit. I don't know what this is.
It's like a yellow satin jumpsuit with a purple cape. It's crazy.
Yep.
I've heard that she looks like she is like a Disney villain. Like, she's like out of a Disney
She kind of is a Disney villain, and the fact that this episode's sort of a musical reinforces that.
So Duncan and Richie eventually stumble across each other in the catacombs. And we have another bit of dialogue here, which echoes this very strange writing style that villager had, like where he speaks like he shouldn't speak that way. Like, let's just play this clip, and we'll talk about it.
Boy, am I glad to see you.
The feeling isn't mutual. I told you to stay by the manhole cover. Now go back.
Go back? I forgot my ball of twine.
You're lost.
Mac, I'm wandering around this place, turning like fish belly white, growing these phosphorescent tendril out of my forehead like some bottom-dwelling sea urchin.
Quiet.
What are you talking about, Richie?
Like, it seemed like he didn't even know where that was going. He's like, I've started this sentence. How do I get out of it?
Fish belly, tendril, loin. I don't know.
He says phosphorescent tendrils. This is from a child that has not graduated high school. Like, is a high school dropout for all intents and purposes. And it's like he's speaking in the craziest, like, most poetic way about being
that's
lost.
That's the line for poetic now.
What? I don't know.
Phosphorescent tendrils.
Well, it's very florid language. Richie would never
music
speak
to my ears.
Yes. Richie would never speak like this. This is crazy time.
Hey, Kaminsky, show you didn't come by to discuss the vicissitudes of of the antique trade.
So they bump into Ursa, right, in these catacombs?
And it's dark, and he doesn't recognize Mac.
Yeah.
And just takes him downtown pretty easily.
And Ursa has an enormous sword that I think is pretty cool, but it's just like a big chopper. Like, I don't know.
It's almost like a sickle. I was trying to do some research and find out, like, what kind of sword it is. It could be, and there's some sword experts I know listening, so let us know. Is it a Depika Kopesh? It's an Egyptian sword?
Huh.
Why would he have that?
I don't know.
That's from the French countryside.
I don't know. But it's a strange, like, it's kind of like a sickle, but not on...
Yeah, it did have like a curve or whatever.
It does look like a piece of farm equipment.
Yeah. But it's big and cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
And Duncan and Richie both get...
Ursid.
Yeah, Ursid.
Because he's also... that wasn't clear in the first scene, because Duncan's riding a horse for most of the time. This guy's huge.
Right.
And the first time they show him, he's all hunched down, like Quasimodo style. When he actually stands up, he's a very big man.
After this encounter, we're back at the barge now, and Richie's getting, like, patched up by Tess. She displays such disgust for this guy, Ursa. She's like, why is he down there? Why doesn't he recognize you? I thought he was your friend. Like, all this stuff. And it's like, Tess, he's mentally ill. Like, he has serious problems. And you're like, ugh. Like, I don't think you can apply, like, the same logic. This guy, he has, like, a mental handicap. Like, I think you need to cool out. Like, she's just so disgusted by him.
Even that, it's like dark and it's in the sewer, and he probably hasn't seen him since the 1600s or whatever.
Right.
Like,
so in defense of Tessa, he did try to murder Duncan with a sword. Like, let's be clear about what the stakes are. She doesn't know this guy. She's not invested in his well-being, and he's murdered someone and almost killed Duncan. I feel like if I'm Tessa, I'm like, why are we wasting so much effort on this guy? Waste him. Like, he's dangerous.
Well, I would just leave him alone.
Yeah.
If they did, as we're about to find out, he would murder
true.
Jenny. So,
Right.
like, leaving him alone isn't really an option. He has tried to harm Duncan, and he's, like, a dangerous person. I don't know. I'm at least... I agree Tessa's coming on a bit strong, but I don't think it's unprovoked. Like, the two most important people to her just got attacked by this guy.
That's true.
Well, that Jenny has it coming. She's trying to steal that spotlight.
Yep.
And the problem is that the diva of this show just doesn't have the gumption to fire her.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm too much of a wuss to fire this person. Let me get my giant to kill her.
So there's a weird... After this, we're back at the Opera House, and Duncan is visiting. And again, looks awesome. There's this huge wide shot of like the grand staircase as they're walking up.
Which Duncan puts on his members-only jacket.
He's got like a pink sweatshirt and a members-only jacket. And he goes to see Jenny, who's wearing like, has her hair back in a ponytail and is wearing like a baseball hat.
She looks like a small, ill child.
Yes.
I thought she was a boy. Like, when I first saw her, I was like, oh, who's this character?
So, two things I wanted to say about this scene. Like, the scene doesn't really do much.
No.
It just kind of is like, Jenny thinks that Carolyn's not a nice person. That's what it establishes. But so the two things I wanted to say was the establishing shot for this scene is this big, beautiful opera house, right? And then the filming of it is just a straight-on shot of Duncan and Jenny talking to each other, like looking side to side.
Yeah.
There's no cuts. There's not like a one-shot, two-shot, like reverse shot thing. It's nothing. And it's like, this is the most boring thing I think Highlander's ever filmed. Like, and they're in the most beautiful place they could possibly be. And it's like, you don't want to just turn the camera a little bit so we can see like something?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's crazy. And then this conversation ends with the most baffling line. So Jenny's walking away. She turns around and she's like, oh, look, I hope you don't think that. And then Duncan goes, no, I don't. And then Jenny goes, okay, bye. And that's it. And it's like, huh?
No,
Bye.
He's trying to figure out... He knows that Ursa is working with... He suspects, I believe, that Ursa is working with someone in the theater. He's got a reason for doing this. He's asking her all these questions to figure out if it's her.
Well, no, he suspects Carolyn already.
Yeah, he does, but
Yeah.
I think that's the thing they're talking about.
So
'Cause he
Jenny
says,
wants
Jenny
to make
said-
sure that she's like, oh, you're not thinking me.
You're
right?
not thinking that I had something to do
I
with
get it.
this.
I get
And
it.
Duncan
Yeah.
says... Because he says, I don't now. Like, I've
Okay.
spoken to you. Like, I don't
Right.
think it's you.
I get it.
Because also she would theoretically have an incentive because she's the backup singer. If she was like jealous, she might want to get the star out of the show so she could play a bigger role. I don't know. I think it's an okay.
Okay.
It's a little bit
I was
detective
confused
work.
about the context of that line.
Yeah.
I was just like, huh?
I did like pause it and think about it for a minute.
Yeah.
But I think that was what they were attempting to do because like she's like evasive. She doesn't want to talk about it, and like
Right.
Duncan's kind of
Okay.
pressing her.
I thought this line was funny to me. Maybe it's not funny. But Jenny says about Caroline, she can sing anything. Jazz, opera, that's it. Doesn't mention anything else. Granted, those two things aren't very similar, but...
That's amazing. Next, we go upstairs to a rehearsal. Dee Dee Bridgewater is, I guess, having like a band meeting, and she's saying that she wants to be the new manager of the band because she doesn't think they should give 25% to a manager. It's like 25%. That's not plausible. Like that's not realistic. Like no manager really makes 25%. And the only reason I call this out as being like odd that it's in the script. This is written by like an industry person. Like this person, by all intents and purposes, has a manager, and I guarantee they don't pay them 25%. Like these people are from Hollywood. Like, are they not cued into like the reality of what's around them? Like 25%? No. Like 15% is like topping out basically for a manager. So it's like they said that. It's like Dee Dee Bridgewater, the person who said the line. I'm sure she has a manager. And
Right.
I bet she doesn't pay him 25. Like nobody was like, "Hey, you should just knock that down to like 50." Like even 15% is reasonable to be like, "Hey, like I don't think we should give 15% of our like take to some guy." That's
Maybe
like, okay.
Frank was a very expensive manager.
Maybe who knows what he was getting them in
Frank,
his orange
she says,
blazer.
Yeah, as she says, Frank was a parasite. It's like, yeah, way to talk ill of the dead.
Yeah.
This guy's body is still warm.
They're having the meeting over his body.
She wants Jenny kicked out also at this point. She's like, it's not working out. And again, this just, I don't know what the dynamic of this band is because like we said earlier, why doesn't she just fire her? It seems like it's her show.
It seems like the keyboard guy kind of runs the show, and that's
Yeah.
really weird. It's like, who is this asshole.
Also, I took note of what the band is, so it seems pretty normal. It's like there's a keyboard player, a drum set, bass guitar, regular guitar, and then the guy just on a timpani. And I guess in the song we listen to, there is a timpani.
Yeah.
But I guess that's their normal band makeup.
Richie and Jenny do show up. Jenny still is kind of dressed like an ill child, but then she like takes off her hat and reveals that she's a real girl. So then Richie starts jamming along to the music, and it is weird. He's just sitting there like kind of bobbing his head in no real direction, like he's like punch drunk or something.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't match the music.
Nope.
And it's so odd. And there's like 3 different shots of it, too.
Yeah. So, in the meantime, Carolyn goes to the basement. I guess she's looking for Ursa. But Duncan catches her going down to the basement. He pops out with a flashlight. He's like, boo! It's crazy. So she's like, oh, I wasn't doing anything. So she then walks, like Duncan follows her into the costume room. And the costumes in this room, and she's like going through them, like, and pulling stuff down, like, this is for the show. It's crazy. Like, are they putting on a production of like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat? It's all like these sparkly, like Middle Eastern looking robes and crowns. It's nutso. So she ends up finding a dagger. Meanwhile, I guess Ursa is going to kidnap Jenny. Ursa is like upstairs kidnapping Jenny, and all of a sudden Duncan. Like, I can't tell if it's the buzz or not. I got the impression it wasn't. Like, they don't have a big buzz moment. But, like, he gets a feeling, and then he just starts booking it. Like, he just takes off across the opera. Like, he knows what's happening. Like, Ursa's there or whatever. And I wasn't sure what triggered
I thought she
that.
screamed. I thought that there was a scream before he runs.
Is there?
I thought so.
I can't remember.
She takes the dagger to Ursa and uses that to convince her that Jenny was going to try to murder her. Because I guess Ursa's having second thoughts about kidnapping and killing Jenny. But eventually he decides he's going to do it, spurred on by this dagger. Also, side note, why is there a sharp-edged weapon in a costume? Who did that?
Yeah.
Fire that person.
Maybe it's like one of those mime knives from a previous episode.
So Richie and Duncan are in hot pursuit of Ursa, who's now down in the catacombs. And Duncan finds like a lamp on the ground. He then pours fuel out of the lamp onto a stick and then lights the stick on fire to make like a torch. But why didn't you just light the lamp?
The lamp could have been broken.
I guess it was broken, but I thought it was funny as I was watching it. I was like, wait, like, use the lamp.
And then Richie says, well, at least with this, you don't need batteries.
So they go in hot pursuit of Ursa. They now know the caves because of their prior expedition. But at one point, Richie catches up to Ursa, and Ursa just backhands him, like, into a coma.
Yeah.
Like, destroys him. Like, he's got tweeting birds around his head, basically. When Duncan goes over him, Richie does, like, a triple take of, like, trying to get up and falling back down. It's kind of funny.
At this point, Duncan and Richie rescue Jenny, but Ursa gets away.
So Ursa just, like, he doesn't kill her. He just leaves her down there with, like, a chunk of bread?
Yeah.
Right.
Is that what that is?
I think.
It kind of looks like a sponge because the light is so
I
dark.
thought like it was a seashell or something. I was like, what is this he's heading toward?
Whatever it is, it just doesn't read well in, like, the dim lights. It's like, here you go, bye.
Yeah, so, like, I guess he doesn't want to kill her, but he still wants to make Dee Dee happy. But Duncan and Richie come across her.
They find her, they rescue her. So the next scene is just in the barge, and this is one of those, like, nonsense scenes that doesn't do anything. Like, they're back at the barge. The new police person's there, and he's like, we'll be looking for him. They're like, thanks. And then Richie's like, everything's going to be just fine. And then it cuts. And it's like, pointless, like, move on.
Cut to Dee Dee. She's dressed as the Shredder. She's wearing this, like, crazy...
From Ninja Turtles 2? With the purple... Is that
purple cape. Yeah. That's it, like, maybe even Super Shredder.
Yeah, Super Shredder. Yeah.
She's dressed as. She's got this crazy, like, hooded cape on. It's insane looking.
And she's always, like, has her hands like she's holding the hood up.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, for the rest of the episode, her hands are just, like, on the hood.
You just need a better hood at that point.
Yeah. So
A hood is a hands-free device.
That's right.
So she's telling Ursa at this point that Jenny's going to try to kill her, and you just have got to stop her. But Duncan shows up.
Yeah.
And I like that he spoke to, like, Duncan introduces himself to Ursa, and he, like, speaks in a much thicker Scottish accent to, like, convey who he is from like long ago, which I thought was fun. But then Carolyn is just like,
Get him.
"Yep, go get him, Ursa." Like she's really what's the word? Irking him on? Nope.
Egging?
Yeah,
She's really ursing him on.
Nursing him on.
So this fight is kind of wild.
Yeah.
It feels very unlike all the other fights that
Yeah.
have been in the show. In part because Duncan's heart's not really in it. So
Right.
It's like he's
Yeah,
not really
Duncan like
attacking.
refuses to fight in the beginning of it
Right.
until he's kind of forced to pull his sword out just to defend himself.
Yeah. So, like, this fight, it starts on the stage and it goes up into the rafters, and Ursa's basically out for blood. And it goes onto the roof of the opera house. I think this is awesome. Like, watching this, I was like, this is epic. Like, all the sword fights in this show need to be like this.
Yeah,
Like,
it is really epic.
And Duncan's
And
getting
again,
like,
the music is super awesome.
yeah, the music's great. Like, this is an exciting sequence. Too bad it has to be surrounded by all this bullshit.
like Duncan's getting thrown around by
Yeah.
Ursa because he's, the super strong guy. And they're like flipping off of roofs and
Yeah.
like falling down.
They're
things.
sliding. It's really
It actually
cool.
looks dangerous
Yeah.
also. Like, it looks like they were in possibly actual danger filming this sequence.
Which is super cool. It has one of the weirdest shots in the entire show in it, though. There's like this weird... At one point, Duncan gets like hurled down the roof, and he
Right.
like stops himself at the edge. And then Ursa, like it's a slide or something,
Yeah, it's
slides
like-
down with his sword.
Yeah.
He's gonna skewer him through the slide.
Yeah.
And you get like this weird like POV shot from Ursa's perspective as he's
Yeah.
doing this slide.
Right.
It's so weird.
Slide POV, sword POV.
But yeah, the fight's got a ton of movement in it, and it's like super physical, and Duncan looks pretty messed up at the end. And
Yeah.
like,
It's a
around
great
lot.
fight.
It's epic. But, like, the
Epic
stakes
fight,
aren't
bro.
very high. Like, the stakes are high between Duncan and Ursa, but, like, beyond that, there's not much at stake here.
I mean, everything feels the plot feels very like trivial.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everything just feels a little petty.
Right.
Because also there's no point for it, because why are we trying to kill this person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that part's a little disappointing.
But at the end of it, and it should be noted that Carolyn is watching this whole thing. kind
Yeah.
of. Like, she's up on the roof too, kind
Yep.
of checking out what's going on. Ursa ends up falling off the opera roof.
Right.
And so, of course, Carolyn, not knowing anything about immortals, thinks he's dead. And she's like, ah! And she, and she runs off.
Yeah.
Duncan goes down to follow her. And he confronts her. And we should play this clip, I guess, of... She reveals her true feelings about how she felt about Ursa. And of course, at this point, Ursa has just woken up, and he's overhearing this.
Yeah, we were friends.
He was a lobotomy case.
And you never cared for him.
He must have hit you over the head. He was a simpleton. He belonged in some sewage
Aw, poor Ursa.
That's
Heartbroken.
Yeah.
So she's freaked out and she runs away.
And Ursa chases after her because he's now mad at her. But then, splat.
sad. Gets hit by a taxi?
Yeah, she gets plowed over good.
I laughed when that happened.
Me too.
I just went, really? Like, that's how this
Yeah.
nonsense plot is ending with a cab driver? Also, like, the real victim in this story is the cab driver.
Yeah.
He's very upset.
I'm sure.
And his insurance rates are going to be terrible.
So then the way this episode, like the denouement of this episode is Duncan and Ursa are fast friends again. I guess they've made up, and Duncan brings Ursa back to the chapel. Apparently they've rebuilt it. And he's like, oh, the brothers are going to take care of you. And Ursa walks off, and then Duncan kind of looks off into the distance and is like, like he chuckles to himself, like as if to say, you old so-and-so, like, what?
That's our Ursa.
Yeah, that's just our guy who killed a guy. Right,
Yeah.
so like we're still missing that. At the beginning of this episode,
Exactly.
Oh, right. He's a murderer.
aces the manager
Right.
for no reason.
Yeah, like,
a
I
perfectly
can-
fine human being.
I can essentially, like, my intelligence purposes, like, forgive him for trying to kill Jen. Like, he is, like, a misguided... like, he was being told wrong information, and, like, he acted poorly on that.
Right.
But the first time, like, not that, like, the manager
He wasn't
did
even
nothing,
manipulated,
The manager
yeah.
did nothing wrong, other than to actually just manage the band responsibly. Like, he was looking out for everyone else in the band.
He earns that 25%.
Yeah, and like the worst thing he did was wear those absurd clothes he was wearing. He was wearing like a yellow jacket with a bunch of like weird patches on it. It was kind of silly. That was the worst thing he did.
Yeah.
And he like berated this woman who was being horrible.
Also, he was physically assaulted by her.
Yeah, so
Yes.
like this guy is
Not safe.
yeah.
No.
He's not a good guy. Like, I know he's kind of damaged, but it's like, man, Duncan.
I know he's kind of damaged.
Good
Come
job.
on.
Good job, Duncan. He's not getting 25% for that.
Yeah, so what are our thoughts on this episode? It's a weird one.
The flashback is great, and the fight at the end is great. Everything else you could flush down the toilet. Like,
Yeah, I feel like certain elements of just like the quality of this episode, like certain elements of that are really high.
yeah.
Like a lot of things are pretty well shot. The locations are great.
Yeah,
like,
you know what?
a lot of effort went into this.
Yeah.
But like someone needed to go back and like look at this script.
Also,
some more.
it's been a while. Since we talked about like them grafting other stories onto Highlander stories, like
and this
like, kind of reeks. It's like, oh, this is just either like a Quasimodo or like Phantom of the Opera thing stuck onto Highlander. So it didn't deal. I don't know. It could have just been better. I don't know.
The Phantom of the Highlander.
Phantom of the Highlander.
All the catacomb exploration stuff was pretty cool, too.
Those are all the real catacombs. Apparently.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they like went down there and filmed. They said it was really hot and really dusty and not pleasant.
Believe that.
Yeah.
Also, another bit of behind-the-scenes trivia. Apparently, in Paris, you're required to get your shooting permits 10 days in advance before you shoot. And it was just one woman who worked the permit desk at, like, City Hall. And she would go to, like, she would be done for the day at noon. And it didn't matter who was standing in line, according to Bill Panzer. Like, you'd be waiting for your permits. Noon, boom, done. And so they said it was really hard to get shooting permits a lot because they said they wouldn't finish these scripts until like 7 or 8 days sometimes before shooting.
Yikes.
They didn't quite know where they'd be shooting all the time, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I guess we should talk maybe a little about the Watcher Chronicles.
Yeah, I'm curious about this guy.
About Ursa. It says, no known birthday for Ursa. It says his Watcher was Father Jean Patrick. And Kyle, this plays into what you were saying earlier in the episode Eyewitness, I think, about... You mentioned it would be a good idea to have Watchers in the police force as a way to, like, conceal what was going on. And this kind of plays into it. It's like, oh, like, there was a Watcher in the priesthood who was kind of almost looking after Ursa. Like, he could make sure that things were kept under wraps, maybe, for Ursa, which I thought was kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. And, of course, these Watcher Chronicles have, like, kind of a form they follow. It's, like, born, first died, who their teacher was, all that sort of stuff. And it always has a thing for occupation. So, like, Duncan's is, antique dealer. Like, so they've used this form for Ursa. So it says occupation, feral creature.
Is that what he writes on his taxes? Feral creature.
So amazing. That's kind of insulting to him.
I thought he had a job at the Abbey that they say in the episode.
Dude, they could have put Gardner.
Yeah, Gardner is the answer.
Feral creature. Wild child.
And then I have his whole like entry here just because I figured it's another one of those like absurd Watcher entries, so I figured I'd read it. It says, Ursa is a strange and miraculous child of God.
What?
So this is written by a priest.
I guess that does make sense.
That does make sense, yeah.
Some might call him misbegotten, but Ursa has an astounding appreciation of the beauty of God's world. Whether it is the flowers, which Ursa tends with strict devotion and surprising tenderness, or the voices of the other brothers raised in harmony, Ursa finds the meaning of his life in the beauty he finds around him. Would that we all could do the same?
He's also a savage, heartless murderer. And a feral creature.
Feral creature.
So I'm guessing Ursa's not a recurring character on this show.
No, I don't think so.
Good fight, though.
Yeah, that's the saving grace of this episode. That's really good. Yeah, and the song, of course.
Yeah, and that song. Get that on your iPod.
So that pretty much wraps up this episode, The Beast Below. Before we close out, I thought we'd do like kind of a roundup of immortal rules that we've seen so far. And we're going to try to keep this like running total, and we're trying to cite them as we go, like what episodes bring up what rules. And because sometimes like these rules kind of go against each other, like there's some contradictions and some things kind of get rewritten as we go. So I will go down the list and let us know what you think on Facebook and Twitter about all this stuff, or write us at Highlander Rewatched at gmail.com. One of the first rules is no 2 against 1 seems to be a rule, and that was established in The Gathering. And then another thing is you get a buzz when an immortal is nearby. That's also from The Gathering. It would seem that projectile weapons are allowed, That's in The Gathering as well.
Right, because Slan has like the ballistic knife in his sword.
Right.
And then I believe also in that episode they explore that immortals can't have children. So those are four rules that are explicitly said in the first episode. I think a couple more are mentioned, but I cite them later in a different episode. Let's see. It's only when the first time you die that you become immortal, and that was in the episode Free Fall with Joan Jett. That you're not like you don't know about immortality until you have like a death for the first time.
Right.
The only way to die is to have your head severed from your body. They probably say that, I think, in The Gathering, but it's explicit in the 5th episode, Free Fall. If you win The Gathering, you will have absolute power. That's also in Free Fall. And the quickening is when you receive all the knowledge and strength of the other immortal. And then in the Sea Witch, we got another rule, which is you don't have to cut someone's head off to gain their quickening. Is another kind of part of this.
Right.
Because Voshin got his head cut off by boat propeller.
Yeah.
And then a newer rule that we're not sure how it's going to play out quite yet is in the episode For Tomorrow We Die, it seems like you can get dismembered, and those body parts don't grow back.
Yeah, that does appear to be the case, because Xavier St. Cloud got his hand chopped off by Duncan. Also in that episode, just to build on the concept of the projectile weapons, apparently like things like gas are okay too. It doesn't seem like there are any rules about how you fight another immortal. You just have to take their head at the end.
Yep.
Did you mention Holy Ground, Keith?
I didn't mention Holy Ground. Maybe the most important rule.
And that is in The Gathering.
That's it, definitely in The Gathering. I must have skipped that one. So, you cannot fight on Holy Ground.
And seemingly you can't even hurt mortals on Holy Ground.
Maybe.
There's like a question mark on that, but that's been the implication up to now. Certainly in Band of Brothers, it seems like Grayson doesn't
go on Holy Ground to hurt that guy.
Yeah.
Right. He throws the knife at him, right?
Yeah. So that's our roundup so far. We're going to keep adding to this. If there's any rules you think we've missed in these early episodes, write us an email, let us know. Anyway, so that about does it. Make sure to like us on Facebook, Highlander Rewatched, and definitely visit our page on iTunes. We always put links up to that in a lot of our Facebook posts. And make sure to rate us and share the podcast with your friends. Those ratings help us reach a bigger audience, and we want more people to get into the Highlander spirit, especially since it's going to be the 30th anniversary of the original Highlander film in 2016, which we're all really excited about. And hopefully there will be a new reboot movie coming soon. So, I think that about does it for this episode. Make sure to join us next week for the episode Saving Grace. I've been one of your rewatchers, Keith.
I'm Kyle.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Could all do it.
Since the beginning
of time. As if nothing ever changes. I wonder so long goodbye. It's a long goodbye. 2 hours, weeks turn into years as we fade away. We just fade away. Love is a long goodbye. Love is a long goodbye. Weeks turn into years while we fade away. We just fade away. No, stop. Why don't you just take the spotlight off me entirely? Why just cut my fucking mic?
That's awesome. That has to be it.
Are we done? Yes. Okay.
I think that's good.